What do music you do when a woman disrespects you? Not joking, not teasing. I mean real disrespect. She talks down to you, music mocks you, makes you feel small. Most men react the wrong way. They get angry or they stay quiet. Music and accept it. Both are mistakes. Today, you'll learn how to respond music in a way that keeps your respect, power, and control. Before we start, I am currently working on the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men course that's coming very soon. This is music, a complete step-by-step system that rewires how you think, act, and lead in relationships so you stop reacting, start commanding respect, and apply these principles permanently in your life. This will transform how women treat you, how you carry yourself, and how you handle every test without confusion, hesitation, or emotional chaos. It gives music you clarity, control, and a standard most never reach. If you're ready for that level, comment the blueprint right now so you don't miss it when it drops. Number 1, stay calm. When she belittles you, everything inside you wants to react because you are standing there, hearing her tone, seeing the slight smirk, noticing the way she chooses her words carefully to cut just enough without looking obvious. And in that moment, your mind starts racing. You replay what she said. Music. You think about how it makes you look. You think about how others might see you. And the pressure builds in your chest, telling you to respond fast, to defend yourself, to prove something right there on the spot. But this is exactly where most lose control, because music act on impulse instead of discipline. And the truth is, she is watching closely. Not just what you say, music, but how you say it, how your face changes, how your body reacts. Because in that exact moment, she is measuring your emotional stability and your self-control. And if you give her anger, if you give her frustration, if your voice raises or your words stumble, you hand her silent confirmation that she can shake you whenever she wants. Music. And that becomes your pattern. So the real move is not dramatic. It is controlled, it is deliberate, it is quiet. You pause, you breathe music once, you keep your posture steady. You let the silence sit there long enough to make her aware that something just happened without you needing to announce it. Because silence under pressure is not weakness. Music. It is discipline. It is proof that you are not ruled by your emotions. And that alone shifts the entire interaction, because now she is no longer certain about how far she can push you, and uncertainty makes people cautious. So instead of reacting instantly, music you respond only if necessary, and only from a place of control. Music. You keep your tone even, your words minimal, and your presence grounded, because a man who cannot be pulled into emotional chaos becomes extremely difficult to manipulate, and that is the foundation you build on. You train music yourself daily to not be reactive, not just with her, but with music everything: traffic, stress, delays, disrespect from others. You practice holding your frame in small situations so that in bigger ones you remain composed without effort. Music. Because this is not about one conversation. This is about how you carry yourself through life. And once you master this, people start to sense it before they even speak to you. Music. They test less. They push less because they recognize that you are not easy to disturb. And that is where real respect begins. Not from what you say, but from how unshaken you remain when tested. And that is where real respect begins. Not from what you say, but from how unshaken you remain when tested. And that's exactly why the Stoic Relationship Music Blueprint ebook for men exists, filled with timeless music principles that immediately reshape how you think, act, and carry yourself, so you stop being controlled and start moving with clarity and strength. It's now available in audiobook form, so you can absorb this life-changing knowledge while walking, training, or moving through your day, turning every moment into growth without slowing your life down. It's linked in music, the comments, and once it's yours, it stays with you permanently, meaning you always have access to the exact mindset, structure, and discipline that keeps you grounded no matter what situation you face. Number 2, do not chase approval. When a woman puts you down, the quiet pressure underneath it is not just the words she uses, music, but the position she is placing you in. Because in that moment, she is setting a frame where she is above, and you are expected to respond from below. Music. And most fall into this without realizing it. They start explaining themselves. They justify their actions. They try to sound reasonable. They try to show they are not what she implied. Music. And the entire time they are chasing one thing without saying it directly, approval. And the more they speak, the more they give away, because now the dynamic is clear. Music. She judges, and you respond. She speaks, and you defend. She throws a remark, and you try to correct it. And that is a losing position every time, because once you accept her as the authority of your value, you have already stepped down from your own position. So the shift you make is internal first. Music. You stop seeing her opinion as something that defines you. You stop giving her words that level of importance. You understand that people speak based on their own mindset, their own habits, their own need for control or attention, and you refuse to carry that weight as music if it is truth. So instead of reacting with explanations, you reduce your response. You keep it simple or you say nothing at all, because music, not everything deserves a reply, and especially not something designed to provoke you. Music. And this is where most struggle, because silence in that moment feels uncomfortable. It feels like you are letting something slide, but in reality, you are refusing to play the role she is trying to assign to you, and that is power, because now she does not get the reaction she expected. She does music not get the validation that she can affect you. And over time, this changes how she interacts with you, because people adjust based on what works. And when approval is no longer something they can extract from you easily, music, they either change their behavior or they remove themselves. Both outcomes work in your favor and beyond her. This becomes a standard you apply everywhere at work, music in social settings, in every interaction where someone tries to position themselves above you. You remain grounded in your own sense of worth. You do not rush to prove. You do not rush to explain. You let your actions, your consistency, and your presence speak over time. Music. And that builds a kind of confidence that is not loud, but undeniable, because it does not depend on anyone agreeing with you. And once you operate from that place, music, your decisions change, your boundaries become clearer, and your life starts to align with what you actually want instead of what you think others expect from you. Music 3. Call it out calmly. Sometimes silence is not enough, music, because there are moments where she crosses a line directly in front of you where her words are not subtle anymore. Music, where the disrespect is clear, intentional, and repeated. And in that moment, staying completely silent can be misunderstood as acceptance, not strength. And this is where most either explode emotionally or shrink and tolerate it. But the real power sits right in the middle, controlled, precise, music, and unshaken. Because when you call it out calmly, you are not reacting. Music, you are responding with authority, and that authority does not come from loudness. It comes from certainty. Music, you look at her directly, your tone steady, your face composed, and you say exactly what needs music to be said without adding extra emotion, without trying to impress, without trying to hurt her back. Music, just clear words like, "I don't like that," or "Don't speak to me like that." And you let that statement stand on its own without over-explaining, because the moment you start explaining, you dilute your position. And she notices that instantly. She listens for hesitation. She looks for cracks. She waits for you to soften your stance so she can regain control. Music. And this is where discipline comes in, because you hold your ground without becoming aggressive. You do not raise your voice. You do not insult her. Music, you do not try to win an argument. You simply establish a boundary and stand behind it. And what happens next tells you, music, everything you need to know about her. Because a woman who respects strength adjusts her behavior when she sees it clearly, but a woman who thrives on control will test it again. Music. She will push a little more. She will try to disguise it as a joke. She will try to make you look overly sensitive. Music. And this is where most start doubting themselves. They think maybe they are overreacting. Maybe they should let it slide. Maybe they should keep the peace. But that thinking is exactly what keeps them stuck, music, in cycles, where they are slowly disrespected over time. So instead of backing down, you music stay consistent. You repeat your boundary if needed, not louder, not angrier, just as calm and direct as the first time music, because consistency is what builds credibility, not intensity. And when she sees that your standard does not change based on her reactions, she starts to realize that this is not something she can bend. And this is where the dynamic shifts, because now she is no longer dealing with someone she can push around casually. She is dealing with someone who knows exactly what he tolerates and what he does not. Music. And that clarity forces a decision on her side. She either aligns with that standard or she creates distance. And both outcomes work in your favor because you are no longer stuck in confusion. And beyond that moment, this approach reshapes how you operate in every situation. Music. Because calling things out calmly becomes a habit, not a rare reaction. You stop letting small things build up inside you. You address them early, clean, and without emotional weight. And that keeps your environment clear of tension and hidden resentment. Music. And over time, people start to recognize that you are not someone they can casually disrespect or test for entertainment because they know exactly what response they will get. Calm, music, direct, and unwavering. And that level of clarity combined with composure creates a presence that does not need to dominate the room loudly, but still commands attention and respect, because people understand that with you, there is a line and that line is not negotiable. Music. Number 4, walk away. Here's the truth most men ignore. You are not trapped. You are choosing to stay. And that realization alone cuts deeper than anything she says because it forces you to confront your own decisions, the times you laughed it off, the times you stayed quiet. Music. The times you convinced yourself it was not that serious. The times you gave her another chance even when the pattern was obvious. And now you are standing in a situation where the respect is low and the tension is high, and part of you is still hoping she will suddenly change without you changing anything. But that is not how this works, because people continue what you tolerate, and she continues because you remain present. So when we talk about walking away, we are not talking about a dramatic exit, not slamming doors, not long emotional speeches, not trying to make her understand everything she did wrong, because that is still you seeking a reaction, still you investing energy where it is not valued. Walking away is quiet, it is controlled, it is final in intention. Even if it looks simple on the outside, you remove your attention, your presence, your availability, and you do it without announcing it like a threat. Music, because a threat is just another form of seeking control, and you are done with that. You simply decide that this is no longer a space you operate in. And that decision is internal first, because if music it is not solid inside you, you will leave physically and then come back the moment she reaches out or the moment you start missing the familiarity. Music, and that is where many fall back into the same cycle. So before you even take a step away, music, you get clear with yourself. You look at the pattern honestly, not emotionally, not with excuses, but with clarity. She disrespects you. You address it. She continues. And that tells you everything you need to know, not about her potential, not about what she could be, but about what she is choosing to be right now. Music. And you make your decision based on reality, not hope. And once that decision is made, your actions follow without hesitation. You stop music reaching out. You stop responding to low-effort messages. You stop making yourself available for conversations that go nowhere. Music. You redirect your time and attention to your own life, your work, your physical discipline, your goals, your environment. And this is where the real shift begins, because at first it is uncomfortable. You are used to the interaction, even music, if it was negative. You are used to checking your phone, to thinking about what she said, to replaying moments in your head. And now music, there is space. And that space forces you to face yourself, your habits, your standards, your discipline. And instead of running from that, you lean into it. You build structure into your day. You train your body even when you do not feel like it. You focus on your work with intensity. You clean up the areas of your life you have been music neglecting, because walking away is not just about leaving her, it is about returning to yourself fully. And as you do this consistently, something changes. Music, your mind becomes quieter, your reactions become slower, your standards become clearer. And you start to see the situation from a different level. You realize that you were accepting less than you should have. You realize that you were giving more than was being returned, and that clarity removes the emotional attachment piece by piece, not through denial, but through understanding. And this is where your power stabilizes, not in proving anything to her, not in trying to make her regret it, but in becoming someone who does not entertain that kind of dynamic at all. And ironically, this is when she may try to re-enter. She notices your absence. She notices the lack of reaction. She notices that you are no longer accessible, and she reaches out sometimes casually. Music, sometimes indirectly, sometimes testing the waters to see if she still has access. Music. And this is where your discipline is tested again, because it is easy to walk away when there is silence. Music. It is harder when there is attention again, but you stay aligned with your decision. You evaluate her actions, not her words. Music. And unless there is clear change, consistent effort, and real respect, you do not step back into the same pattern, because you understand now that going back without change is just restarting the same cycle, and you are no longer interested in repeating what you have already outgrown. And even if she never comes back, music, even if there is no closure, no apology, no explanation, you are still ahead, because you have removed yourself from a situation that was draining your time and lowering your standard, music, and you have redirected that energy into building a life that does not revolve around someone else's behavior. And that music is where real self-respect shows, not in what you say, but in what you accept and what you walk away from without hesitation. And once you operate like this consistently, music, your entire life changes. Your circle changes. The way people interact with you changes. The opportunities you pursue change, because you are no longer operating from a place of tolerance for disrespect. You are music operating from a place of clarity and discipline. And that makes you someone who cannot be easily placed into situations that do not align with your standard music, because you are willing to leave. And that willingness is what sets you free. Number 5, build self-respect. This is the real solution, because everything you have heard so far only works long-term if it is built on something solid inside you. And that foundation is self-respect. Music, not words, not posture, not pretending to be confident, but a standard you live by every single day when nobody is watching. Because the truth is, you already know where you are falling short. You know the music habits you ignore, the discipline you delay, the excuses you repeat to yourself when you choose comfort over growth. And that is where this starts. Not with her, not with what she says, but with how you are living. Music. Because if your life is not in order, if your mind is scattered, if your body is weak, if music, your purpose, is unclear, then any external disrespect hits harder than it should. Music. It shakes you more than it should, and it pulls you into cycles where you start seeking validation just to compensate for what you are not building internally. So the shift you make is brutal honesty with yourself. You look at your routine, your habits, your environment, and you cut out what makes you soft. You remove distractions that keep you stagnant. You stop negotiating with yourself when it is time to do what needs to, music, be done. You wake up and you execute. Whether it is training your body, building your income, sharpening your skills, or improving your mindset, music, you do it consistently without waiting for motivation. Because discipline is what creates stability, music, and stability is what creates confidence that cannot be shaken by someone else's words. And as you, music, build this, something changes in the way you carry yourself. Not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you know what you are doing daily. You know the effort you are putting in, and that gives you a quiet certainty that does not need to be announced. And when a woman tries to belittle you from that position, it lands differently. Music. It no longer defines you. It becomes noise you evaluate rather than something you absorb, and that changes your reactions completely, music, because now you are not trying to prove anything. You are simply deciding whether the situation aligns with your standard. And music, if it does not, you adjust accordingly without hesitation. And this is where many get it, music wrong. They think self-respect is about how others treat them, but it starts with how you treat yourself. The promises you keep to yourself, the discipline you maintain when it is inconvenient, the standards you refuse to lower even when nobody would notice. Music. Because every time you break your own standard, you weaken your position internally, and that shows in your interactions. People sense inconsistency. They sense when you are unsure and they push further. But when you are aligned with yourself, when your actions match your standards, music, when your routine reflects your priorities, that alignment becomes visible without you saying a word, and people respond to it. Music. They either respect it or they remove themselves, and both outcomes work for you. Music, because you are no longer trying to be accepted by everyone. You are operating from a place where only alignment matters, and this extends beyond relationships, music, into every area of your life. Your work improves because you are focused. Your health improves because you are consistent. Your mindset sharpens because you are not feeding it nonsense daily. And over time, you build a life that is structured, intentional, and music difficult to disrupt. And that is where real freedom comes from, not from controlling others, but from controlling yourself completely. Music, your reactions, your habits, your decisions. And once you reach that level, you no longer tolerate situations that drain you. You no longer entertain behavior that disrespects you. Music. You no longer chase validation because you generate your own sense of worth through your actions. And this is where everything flips, music, because now you are not asking, how do I respond when she belittles me? Music. You are asking, why would I stay in a space where that even happens? And that question alone changes your entire direction because you start making decisions based on your standards, music, not your emotions. And that is the difference between being controlled and being in control. Music. And as you continue on this path, you become someone who is grounded, focused, and unshaken. Someone who does not need to dominate conversations to command respect. Someone who does not need approval to move forward. Someone who understands that value is built daily, music, and protected consistently. And that is what makes you untouchable in every sense. Not because nobody will ever test you again, music, but because when they do, it no longer matters. You handle it with clarity. Music. You make your decision and you keep moving forward without looking back, because your life is no longer centered around what others think or say. It is centered around what you build, what you maintain, and what you refuse to compromise. And that is where your power truly begins. Most men stay stuck because they are taught to chase approval, tolerate disrespect, and ignore the one truth that sets them free. Discipline over emotion, standards over comfort, control over reaction. This is why the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men exists, filled with timeless music principles that immediately transform how you think, move, and command respect. And it's now available in audiobook form so you can absorb it while walking, training, or moving through your day. Society doesn't want you grounded, disciplined, and unshaken because a music man like that cannot be controlled. And once you see this clearly, you stop playing the role they expect from you. It's linked in the comments. And once you have it, music, it's yours for life. Real knowledge you return to whenever you need to reset, refocus, and rise again. If you're ready to take that step, comment, I choose peace. Like the video and subscribe so more men find this truth before they waste years living beneath their standard. Music, 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 hallelujah, music, hello, music, hey, hey, hey. Music, music, music.